Welcome to our gentle hatha practice today. Let us begin with the palms on the thighs for grounding, and we'll first eliminate or exhaust the senses so that we can bring our awareness inward. So just settling in, sit bones rooted down into whatever you're sitting upon, and then eliminating the sense of vision by closing the eyes. And notice if you are mouth breathing now, and if you are, possibly close the mouth and breathe through the nose only. And now exhausting a sense of hearing by listening as far as your ears can hear and in all directions. Searching for sounds that are outside your home or building. Being the witness to each sound that you can discover. Identify it without letting it distract you, and then move to the next sound. Moving from sound to sound, and as you are doing that, making your way in closer and closer to your mat. Eventually finding your way to the sound of your own breath and being the witness to the sound of the inhalation and the sound of the exhalation. And awareness to the temperature of the air on your skin. Notice the places where your clothing contacts your skin. Awareness to the contact points between your body and the earth. So that connection with the earth might be to your mat, to the cushion that you're sitting on, palms of the hands to the thighs. Awareness to any smells that are in your space. Be the witness to those smells and then let them go. And then bringing awareness to the space behind the closed eyes, Chitta Kasha. Tapping into the power of that space to visualize, considering what you would like to bring to the mat today, and finding a word or a few words, ideally short, positive words, to describe what you would like to bring to the practice. Repeating them to yourself mentally 3 times. And considering this intention as a seed that you have planted in both mind and body, which your practice will nourish. Keeping the eyes closed. If you are sitting in easy pose, Sukhasana, keeping those eyes closed and just shifting the positioning of the legs. And then after you've done that, returning the palms of the hands to the thighs, shifting the sit bones around, and then finding that nice tall seated posture again. And just notice if that has changed anything in the body. So, yoga is as much a practice of noticing as it is doing. Bearing witness to what is happening in your body, bearing witness to the connection between mind and body. Still keeping the eyes closed if that is comfortable for you. Press the palms of the hands into the thighs, whether you have straight legs or in Sukhasana. And just with that pressing, see if you can find a lengthening through the spine. And then relax the energy in the palms and keep that spine lengthened by working through the abdominal muscles, maybe bracing, imagining side body pulling in toward the center and even navel toward the spine. And then let's move a little bit more, linking the movement to the breath. So as you inhale, just reach the sternum forward a few inches. And then exhale, return to the nice tall spine, neutral. Let's do that a few more times. So inhale, reach the rib cage or sternum forward. Every time going a little farther, noticing how that changes things in the hips, and then exhaling back to neutral. Feel free to keep the eyes closed or to open them, whatever your preference here. Inhaling, reaching rib cage forward. Again, you may notice that as you reach a little more forward each time, your relationship with the hips changes, and also your relationship to the energy in the palms of the hands, because they probably need to support you a little bit more as you reach more forward. Let's go one more time. And then staying in that nice, tall, neutral position, return the hands to the floor now. So fingertips or palms to the floor beside the hips. And pressing that left hand firmly into the mat. Inhale the right arm up, reach to the ceiling. So try to lengthen from hip right up to the fingertips. And then exhale into a side bend. Stay in this side bend, still actively pushing with that left hand into the floor. And every exhale, feel free to close the eyes if you want to. Just see if you can extend that line through the side body a little bit more. Let's say 2 more full deep breaths here. Energy in that hand into the floor and energy right out the fingertips. Inhale, come up to the center, reaching the fingertips up toward the ceiling. Exhale, release that right hand down to the floor. Fingertips or palm, whatever feels better for you. And then press into the mat on the right side now. Inhale, the left arm straight up. Reach to the ceiling. Try to lengthen from hip right up out to the fingertips. And then exhale into that side bend. And stay with that energy of the side bend. Just visualizing that line from hip right out to the fingertips, actively pushing that right hand into the mat. Stay with the breath. Follow the breath. One more full deep breath. And then inhale, reach all the way up to the ceiling, and exhale, releasing down. Beautiful. Now let's bring the legs to soles of the feet together. So even if you have the legs out straight, let's play around with soles of the feet together, hands on the shins, pulling the heels as close as you can get to the body, but keeping that connection of the soles of the feet together, even especially the base of the big toes. Gently pull on those shins, press the forearms into the inner thighs, and reach the rib cage as far forward as you can go without rounding through the lower back at all. So a lot of awareness at that low back and just reaching the rib cage forward. It almost feels like you've got an arch in the back, almost like you have that back extension of cow in the upper body. And maybe notice how that translates into a stretching and energy in the legs, or in the hips rather. One more full deep breath here. Inhale and exhale. And then inhale, come all the way up. Bring the knees together and hugging around the shins. Lift up nice and tall through the spine. Yeah. Take an inhale, reaching the crown of the head up toward the ceiling, and exhale, turn the whole of the head to the right. Inhale back to center. Exhale, whole of the head to the left. Inhale back to center. Reaching for your strap now. Hopefully it's handy. If you have a loop at the end, hook it around the bottom of that right foot. If you have no loop at the end of your strap, just place your strap at the middle around that right foot. just ahead of the heel. And then keeping that left leg bent, extend that right leg out and press the base of the big toe toward the earth. Now move that bent left knee off to the side and bring that foot in as close as you can get it to the body. Pull on that strap so your spine is really tall. And notice if even just that nice tall spine brings a bit of a stretch into the back of the hamstring group. And walk yourself along the strap, reaching the rib cage forward. Yeah, really getting into that hamstring area there. So the idea is to think nice and long through the spine and just use that strap as best as you can to pull yourself forward. And again, a lot of awareness that the low back is maintaining its natural curve. So if you're starting to round through the low back, bring the body up again, find that nice tall spine, and visualize reaching the rib cage forward. Nice. Take one more full deep breath here. And then let your hands slide up the strap. Just leave the strap where it is. And now that bent left leg, let's take the outside edge of that foot with the right hand. And then take the left hand behind the thigh and hug yourself in as tall as you can. And then from here, just do a little slight rocking from side to side. We often do this with both legs bent, so we're changing it up a little bit, having that right leg stay straight. And now find stillness here. Keep that left hand on the back of that left thigh. Keep that upper leg steady and just move the lower leg up and down in a range of motion that feels comfortable. But maybe as you're doing that, you're noticing that there's something happening deep in the back of the hip there. Spine is nice and tall. So by hugging into that upper leg, you're actually helping the spine to stay nice and tall. Nice. One more time, up and down. And then just hug in really tall. And then release that leg back down to the mat. Bring the knee all the way up. Bend the right leg now. Hug in again, but maybe change the arm positioning. So we probably reached around in the way that's most comfortable for us. Just reach around with the other arm on top and hug in so that the crown of the head is reaching up toward the ceiling. Stay right here. Inhale. Exhale, turn the whole of the head to the left. Nice and slow. Keep with the breath. Inhale back to center. Exhale, whole of the head to the right. Just notice how far the head will go. And then inhale, coming back to center. Nice. Now let's change the foot that the strap is on. So we'll move over to the left leg. Again, same thing. If you have a loop at the bottom of your strap, use that. Otherwise, take the middle of the strap to just ahead of the heel. Then extend that straight leg out. Take a moment to just visualize pressing the base of the big toe toward the earth. It kind of neutralizes the position of the foot. And then that right leg can move away from the midline. Sole of that right foot can come up against the inner thigh or wherever feels comfortable. In this situation, it can even go up toward the knee. Normally, we wouldn't do that, like in tree pose or something. We wouldn't do that because that would put pressure on the knee, but that doesn't happen here. So now let's bring awareness to the spine. So pull on that strap just to find that nice long spine. Keep the base of the big toe reaching away from you. And then start to slowly walk your hands out along the strap to allow your rib cage to move straight forward in space. Yeah, stay with that. A lot of awareness at the low back, that you're maintaining a nice curve in the low back. It's natural curve, lordotic curve, it's called. Stay with it. If you feel like closing the eyes, by all means, close the eyes and just notice. So by doing this, the most common feeling is that there's a stretching through the hamstring group. But do notice if you're feeling it in the low back, because if you are, it could be that you're rounding through that low back. And so release to come back up again and start over, reaching the rib cage forward and allowing that low back to stay in its relatively curved position. Base of the big toe pointing away from you, pressing away. Nice. Take another full deep breath here. And then slowly releasing, allowing the spine to come back up again. And you can leave the strap right where it is, bringing our awareness now to the other leg, the bent leg. So the right leg is bent. The left hand is reaching up to hold the outside edge of that foot, and the right hand is coming behind the thigh. Hug that bent leg in close so that you find a nice tall spine. If you can, try to keep the foot in a neutral position. So basically pointing toward the ceiling, but then base of the big toe pressing down, as opposed to the foot falling away. I know I kind of fell out of the camera range there, but try to keep that. Now hugging in, nice and tall. Feel that lovely yumminess happening. That was a combination of lovely and yummy, by the way, lummy. Let's rock from side to side. And as you're doing this rocking, just check in that your pelvis is staying steady. So the movement is happening in the hip joint of that, femur moving in the hip socket. Yes, stay with that. And then come back to center, hug in a little bit more, a lot of awareness at that right hand, pulling that leg in toward the body, and then move the lower leg only up and down. So it's like there's a bit of an extension and then flexion of that knee. And as you're doing that, maybe close the eyes and just notice where you're feeling that in the body. One more full deep breath. And then do that little hug in nice and tall through the spine and release that foot down. And now let's bring that straight leg back to Baddha Konasana again. Maybe things have changed a little bit in the body after doing that. So settle in, soles of the feet touching, especially base of the big toes, hands to the shins. Maybe pull the heels in a little closer to the body. Press the forearms into those inner thighs, push them away. Close the eyes, just notice. And then reach the rib cage forward. Very slowly, keep breathing, noticing if you can maybe go a little bit farther than you were able to before. Yeah. And again, awareness at that low back, trying to maintain that low back curve. So there's a reaching of the rib cage forward. The chin is kind of staying tucked back toward the neck so that we're not stressing through the neck. Take another full deep breath here. And then come back all the way up. Beautiful. Nice. Really getting into those hips. Let's bring the knees together. Make our way to tabletop position. Move your cushion out of the way. Let's use the blocks here in a moment. So have them on their lowest height, just a little bit in front of you, in front of the hands. Bring the hands underneath the shoulders. And then just invite that slithery motion like the snake into the body. Come back to center. Let's do the reverse breathing that we typically do with cow and cat. So as you inhale, round up to cat. Visualize opening up space in the back of the rib cage. And then exhale to find your cow. Again, inhale, round up to cat. It's a different breathing that we normally do, so it takes some brain work for here to do this. Exhale to find cat. Inhale up to cow. Exhale to cat. And then return to a neutral position. Take the palms of your hands to the blocks. Keep the hips lined up over the knees, and then walk the blocks as far forward as you can take them without moving the hips. Take an inhale right here, reaching through the arms. Exhale to release the forehead down to the mat. And if it doesn't reach the mat, reach for your cushion and slide it under your forehead. We'll stay here for 5 breaths. The hips are lined up over the knees. The arms are reaching forward, and that elevated position of the hands means that you're getting a bit of a nice spinal extension into the upper body. So an opening through the shoulders, but more importantly, that spinal extension in the upper body. Ideally, forehead is resting on something so that those muscles in the front of the body can relax. It's harder for them to relax if they're working against that heaviness of the head. One more full deep breath here. And then after that exhale, bringing the head up, and walking the blocks right back. So your hands are staying underneath the blocks. Come in a little bit closer to the knees than tabletop position. Extend your left leg or right leg, it really doesn't matter. You could do either one, out to the side. So it might be down here, or you might be able to wiggle it up more in line with the hip. So just see how far your foot will come up. And then just take a full breath here. So whatever leg you have out to the side, that hand stays grounded on the block. And then the other hand lifts up and just invite a twist, however far the body will go. Stay in that twist, bend that lifted arm, and place the back of the hand on the low back. Stay with that twist, relaxing through the shoulders, crown of the head reaching out and away from your spine. And the hand that's on the block can actively press into the block and drag away toward that leg that's out to the side to just deepen the twist. You may notice as you're twisting that you're getting that nice stretch through the inner thigh. One more full deep breath. Inhale and exhale. And then inhale to come all the way back on that rotation. So untwist. And then pull the navel to the spine and bring the spine all the way up so you still have that leg extended out. And then take the same hand as that leg that's extended out into the hip and circle the other arm up and over into a side bend. Stay with that side bend. Feel the stretch through the inner thigh maybe. Yeah. Find a nice position for the head that feels comfortable. One more inhale. And then exhale, release that arm, bring the spine up to neutral. Again, pull the navel to the spine as you release forward, bring the hands down to those blocks. And let's bring that leg in. And now we'll do the same thing on the other side. I'll just shift around which the direction I'm facing so that you can see me. So the other leg is coming out. For me, this is my right leg. Might be the left leg for you, that's fine. Just take a moment to see how far you can walk that foot forward. And just play with that for a moment. Settle in. The leg that's out to the side, you'll notice that if you press that hip down toward the mat, that you'll feel a deeper stretch through the inner thigh. Just check in with that. It might feel good, or you might need to release it a bit and lift it a bit. So just check in with your own body, what feels good there. And now whatever leg is off to the side, that hand stays planted on the block. And then unload on the other hand and open up into that twist. Just go as far as feels comfortable. And then bend that arm and let the back of the hand rest on that low back. And then stay with the twist. The hand that's on the block stays very active, pressing into the block, and imagine that you're dragging it toward that leg that's out to the side. Stay with it. You'll notice that energetic work through the hand and arm brings a deeper stretch into the inner thigh. Another full deep breath here. And then unwind and bring that hand back. Nice. Navel to spine. Bring yourself all the way up. Good. Stay there for a moment. Hand that is on the same side as the leg that's out stays at the hip or waist. Inhale the opposite arm up and side bend toward that leg that's out to the side. Stay with that. Yeah. Keep breathing. Find a comfortable place for the head. Just what works. Trying to bring that hand back and over to the side. One more full deep breath. And then come all the way up and release that arm down. Navel to the spine again as you bring the hands back down to the blocks and then slide that knee in underneath the hips. I'm just switching around my position, so I'm facing what I usually consider the top of my mat. And let's go for Anahastasana one more time, because we've really opened up through the hips. Let's get a little more opening through the shoulders. So hips are stacked over the knees. Walk the blocks out as far as you can go without moving those hips. That's key. And when they've gone as far as they can go, you're feeling that reaching through the back of the body. Take an inhale, exhale, release the forehead right down to the mat or to your cushion, or you may have another block that's handy, but really check in that your forehead finds a place to land. And then once it does, stay there. Breathe. Notice where you're feeling the stretch in the body and breathe to that space. Although you really can't breathe to a space, you can't actually send oxygen to a space, just visualizing that space often brings ease to it. And one more inhale and exhale. And then pressing through the arms so that the head can lift up off the mat. Walk the blocks back in. And then move the blocks off to the side. If your strap is handy, have it nearby. Doesn't matter which side. We'll slither through to the belly. So have that strap handy on either side. It doesn't matter. We'll make our way to Sphinx pose first of all. Now, Sphinx pose actively stretches out the front of the hips, although it feels fairly gentle. For many people, you'll feel this more in the lower back, simply because we don't really have that range of motion in the lower back, although it would be good if we did. So elbows are underneath the shoulders. Wiggle the hips around so that the thighs find an even connection to the mat, and just hang out in that Sphinx pose for a moment. Subtly waking up through the fronts of the hips now. We've done the inner thigh work, which stretches out through the hip. We've stretched out the back of the hip. Our focus now is the front of the hip. The next thing that we're about to do is a bending of the leg and reaching for it when our forehead is on the mat. So you may know already if you need a strap to be able to do this. And if you do, you might want to, while your body is still lifted, position your strap around the foot of the side that you're going to do. If you know when your forehead is on the mat, you can reach for your foot or ankle or pant leg, then the strap is really unnecessary. So make your own choice on that one. Once you have made that choice, set up and then release the forehead down. So starting with both legs on the mat, bring the arms down alongside you. And before we go anywhere with that stretch of the front of the hip, let's think about what we're doing with the hands. So the leg that you're lifting, and it doesn't matter which one, the arm of that same hand, the palm is down on the mat with the thumb pointing away from you. And imagine that you're peeling the thumb up, and then the index finger, middle finger, ring finger, and the side of the pinky finger can just rest on the mat. So palm is facing away from you, thumb is pointing up. Now bend that leg of that same side, and then lift the arm up with that hand still in that exact position. Pull the arm toward the midline of your body, and then reach for the inside of that foot or your pant leg or your ankle. You could be using the strap here too. But the idea is to have that shoulder opening as we're opening up through the front of the hip. Now take a moment here to slide the legs together if they've separated to access that holding position. Forehead stays down here on the mat. It's relaxed. Push the hip into the mat. Imagine that you're trying to pull the heel toward the glute, and stay with that for several breaths. How about 4 more breaths? Keep visualizing that push of the hip toward the mat and the heel toward the glute. Stay with it. This is definitely a position that can challenge our range of motion limits here. So really breathe through it. One more full deep breath. And then allow that foot to release slowly down to the mat.
Return the hand to the mat. So both hands are on the mat, palms down, thumbs pointing away. Just do a very gentle rocking of the hips from side to side. Keep the forehead on the mat. And now find stillness in the hips. Let's do the same thing on the other side. So again, the palm is down on the mat. Bring awareness to the hand. Lift the thumb up, index finger, middle finger, ring finger, and then pivot the hand even more so that it's just resting on the outside edge of that pinky finger and the side of the hand. Now, here comes the fun. Bend that knee. Lift the arm up, keeping the hand in that exact position. Pull the whole arm in toward the midline and reach for the inside of your foot or pant leg, or you might have the strap shifted over to that side right now. So take your time with it. Settle in. You may have had to separate the legs to reach for that foot. And if you did, take a moment to try and, zip the legs together. And take a moment, there'll be a bit of an edge here, so you might feel the stretch through the quad and the hip flexor. Breathe into that space and visualize that you are pushing that hip toward the mat and pulling the heel toward the glute. Stay with it. Stay with it. 4 more breaths. Keep pushing that hip into the mat. If it lifts up and rolls away from the mat, we're really losing the benefits of that stretch. So keep the hip pushing down into the mat. You could even squeeze the glutes if you want to of that right, or I'm saying right because I'm doing the right, but whatever leg you're working on. Stay with it. 1 more full deep breath. By squeezing the glutes, you're also releasing the muscles in the front of the hip, allowing them to stretch a bit more. And then very slowly, gracefully, start to release that foot. Let it back down to the mat. Again, both palms are on the mat, thumbs pointing away. Keep the arms where they are. Inhale, lift the head up and the rib cage from the mat. And then exhale to lower down. Let's do that 4 more times. So 5 times all together. Inhale to lift up the head and rib cage. And release down. 3 more times. Inhale as you lift, exhale as you lower. And now final time, lift, and this time slide the arms back to that Sphinx pose. So elbows underneath the shoulders, palms on the mat, and just hang out there. And again, maybe you notice by closing the eyes, if you feel a greater ease in this Sphinx pose, now that we've opened up through the fronts of those hips a little bit. And as you're here, imagine that your hands are pressing into the mat and dragging back, and see if that brings you, again, a deeper back bend. So remember, these back bends also stretch out the front of the hips. Even though you might not feel it very much there, if that's actually happening. Stay with this. Bend both knees. Just see where you can go with that. Yeah, that also adds a stretch. Take 1 more inhale. And then exhale, release the legs down. Take another inhale. Release the forehead to your stacked palms so the elbows will move out to the side. And then rock the hips from side to side. Find stillness. Lift the head up off the palm so you can slide the hands back beside your rib cage. Pull the navel to the spine as you press yourself up to tabletop. And then in tabletop, bring the toes together, knees go wide, press all the way back to child's pose. And let's take a moment here. If your hips are separated from your heels, take your cushion or a rolled up blanket or something, or a block, and place it so that your hips have a place to land or a place to rest. And then once you've snuggled in there, release the forehead to a place where it can rest. And maybe that's on a block, or maybe it's on stacked fists, or maybe your forehead can reach the mat. So just take a moment to figure out what feels best in the body. When you have landed in this place where you're fully supported at the forehead and the hips, follow the breaths, and every time an exhale arrives in your body, actively pull the navel toward the spine. Inhale, expand through the belly. Exhale, navel toward the spine. 3 more breaths like that. And then bringing yourself all the way up to basically a kneeling position with the knees wide. And then from here, shift your hips off of your heels or cushion. Come back around to a seated position with bent knees as we sort of began this practice. We'll do a little bit of work for the outside of the hips as we're twisting. So Ardha Matsyendrasana. Let's extend the left leg straight out. Right knee stays bent. Interlace the fingers. Hug in nice and tall. For this variation of Ardha Matsyendrasana, we will bring the foot up and over. Sometimes I say if you want to keep the leg there, but for this one, we'll try to get that extra stretch through the IT band. So let's hug in first, lifting up really tall. So the opposite arm to that leg that's crossed over. And then that right hand goes around behind to the, close to the tailbone. And then we use that arm to pull and lift our spine up and gently bring ourselves into the twist. Now, if you would like to go to that variation where you cross over, that's fine too. Or you could simply bring your hand up and pull on that leg to bring it into a little bit of a stretch through that IT band as you're bringing your body into the twist. So check in with your own body and what feels good in that hand placement, left hand placement. Take several more breaths here. And then inhale to unwind. Do a little counter twist to the other side. And then come back to center. Interlace the fingers, lift that foot up and over. Extend that leg out, bend the other one. Interlace the fingers the awkward way. Hug in, and then lift that foot up and over. Now, hugging in that around that leg and feel that gentle stretching of the IT band there and into the glute med. The left hand goes behind to the tailbone this time. And then when you're ready, inhale, lift up through the spine. Exhale, start to bring yourself into that twist, actively pulling on that bent leg. So again, you could have that arm crossed over, or you could just shift the positioning of the hands to pull more. It really is very much what feels good in your body. So just work with whatever feels good to get that little bit of extra twist through the IT band and a twist through the torso. Stay with it for a few more breaths. One more full deep breath. And then slowly unwind. Do a little twist in the opposite direction for, balancing things out. Come back to center, interlace the fingers the awkward way. Lift that foot up and over. Bend the leg that's straight and hug in one more time, just nice and tall through the spine. And from here, make your way onto your back, supine. Keep the knees bent for a moment, soles of the feet on the mat. Slowly make your way down. It might be easier for you to roll to one side and then roll over to the back. Take a moment right here. Interlace the fingers behind the head. Lift the head up and just apply a little bit of traction there to lengthen through the spine. And the crown of the head is now aimed out to that space behind you. Release the head down. Take your time to walk the shoulders away from the ears. Release the arms down to the mat, palms turned up, thumbs pointed away. Just take 3 full breaths right here with the knees still bent.
One more full deep breath. And now walk the feet away from each other. They come to the outside edges of your mat. Let the knees come together. This is another just final little stretch for that IT band. So we've stretched pretty much all directions of the hip today. And even though we've done quite a few back extensions, you may find that this brings a greater ease to the low back. And one more full deep breath here. And then walk the feet back toward the midline. And then extend the legs out one at a time into that full Shavasana position. If you would like to use a prop for this, by all means, use that. But before doing that, maybe just take a moment in Shavasana without any props to just notice if you can find an ease there, because maybe you've always made an assumption that you need a prop, but maybe you don't. Bring an awareness to the breath. Follow the inhalation, follow the exhalation. Become aware of the thin plane of contact between your body and the mat. Neither mat nor body, but that thin plane of contact between the two. And then bring your awareness again to the breath. Follow the inhale and follow the exhale. As you inhale, mentally say, I am breathing in. And as you exhale, mentally say, I am breathing out. Stay with the breath. I am breathing in. I am breathing out. And now bring your awareness back to Chitta Kasha, the space behind the closed eyes. Take a moment to be the witness to that space, noticing if there are colors or patterns, maybe symbols. Simply rest there as a witness. And now return to the intention that you set at the beginning of the practice. Repeating it to yourself mentally 3 times. Know that if you can visualize it, you have started creating it. Awareness back to the breath and deepening the breath. Maybe expand through the belly, the side body, the rib cage. Maybe open the mouth as you exhale, or stay with the mouth closed, whatever your preference, but just deepening and lengthening through that exhale. And then awareness back to the body, inviting movement in whatever way feels good to you. And then linking breath to body by inhaling and taking a really big stretch, maybe separating the fingers and the toes from each other. Exhale, bend the knees, roll to one side, let the head rest on the arm. Take a full deep breath there. Just allowing everything in the practice to integrate. And when you're ready, pressing yourself up to a seated position. And maybe if you've come to your typical Sukhasana easy pose, find the atypical one. Let the hands rest with the palms up. Visualize an abundance of ease pouring into those open palms. Ease spreading into every cell in the body. And then sealing the practice by bringing the palms to the heart center in Anjali Mudra and bowing inward. Namaste. Let's take a moment to check in with the goddesses. Fast, independent. Your independence is a foundation for your strength and success. Lovely.